All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm Brandon Gingelbach, president of the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. We are so pumped that you're here for the Colonial Preview virtual event. We at the Chamber are all about business and helping growing and developing the economy, attracting new businesses, helping businesses grow. But we always do this Colonial event every year to be able to feature and focus on this amazing golf tournament that features Fort Worth and that attracts a variety of different people from around the country to our great city. And we also do the golf tournament, this preview lunch, just because of the opportunity to be able to take a step back from the traditional business activities that we have going on. And this year is no exception for that. Not only are we dealing with COVID and we're dealing with professional golf coming back for the first time in a long time, but we're also dealing with just the continued racism, discrimination, and injustice that's happening in our country, and that's been elevated with Mr. Floyd's death. And so we can't ignore those things, and nor do we want to ignore those things. And so we want to recognize that and the challenges that we face. And the Fort Worth Chamber is committed to doing our part to make sure that we can overcome those injustices and discrimination. But at the same time, we do want to provide a fun event like this where we don't ignore the situations going on in our world, but we can have a little bit of time away to think about other things. And certainly golf and sports allow that to happen. So we're pumped today to be joined by an amazing golfer, an amazing golf media personality and expert. And we're really privileged to do this all courtesy of our friends at Simmons Bank. So I want to give a shout out to Simmons. Y'all, we tried to get your logo on the screen. It didn't quite work out. We needed somebody to help continue this amazing event that we have going on. And Simmons came to the rescue. They are an awesome community partner. Steve, Zach, you know, they get invited to St. Andrews and Augusta and all this cool stuff. But until you've been invited to the Simmons Bank customer Christmas party at the Fort Worth Club, you miss out because they take care of their customers. They got this shrimp buffet, and I'm over there just in the center lapping it up. It's amazing. So y'all, I really wanted to thank Simmons for coming through and being able to do this. So we're going to go ahead and move on with the program here, and I'll make some introductions. Michael Toth, who's with Colonial, is supposed to be joining us, so he may have some trouble getting on, but we've got the best folks here for the job. So let's go ahead and make some introductions, and you can see our guests on the screen here. First, we have Zach Johnston. Zach is widely regarded as one of the elite golfers of his generation. He captured the 2015 Open Championship at St. Andrews with a thrilling event and a playoff finish to win his second major championship. His first major came in 2007 at the Masters, where he shot a final round of 69 to outlast Tiger Woods for the green jacket. In addition to these wins, Zach has won a remarkable 10 other times on the PGA Tour, including 2 wins at Colonial in 2010 and 2012. He represented his country 5 times at the Ryder Cup, 5 times in the President's Cup, and serving as the assistant captain in 2019. Recently, Zach was named as the vice captain for the upcoming 2020 Ryder Cup, a title he also held in 2018 for Team USA. Off the course, Johnson is deeply involved in his foundation, as well as supporting the John Deere Classic as a member of their board. One of the neat things about having a virtual event like this and having Zach, and I don't know if y'all know this or not, but Zach can sign autographs virtually. It's unbelievable. And he has told me, listen, anything anyone has, he'll sign. So could you sign my hat, please, real quick, Zach? There you
Hold
go.
on, let me get it.
There you go. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh. Zach attacks Colonial. What a great signature. I think this is going to be worth something here. So anything you want to have to sign, please send it to Zach. He'll make it happen.
Come on.
Zach, thanks for being with us. Let me introduce Steve real quick. Steve Sands joined the Golf Channel in 2001. He's emerged as one of the most recognizable faces in golf broadcasting. As the host of Golf Central and Golf Central pregame, Sands reports live from the many PGA Tour events, including major championships. Lauded for his talents, he has been referred to as the Golf Channel's lead interviewer and credited for elevating its level of broadcasting. Steve learned the fundamentals of his craft at Colorado State University, where he graduated in 1991 with a degree in technical journalism. And I can tell you from spending time, a little bit of time with Steve, he had his workout clothes on last time we were on the call. He's doing the clean and jerk, CrossFit fanatic. He's ripped. So not only does he know and understand golf, but he takes care of his body as well. So we don't have Michael here, but we don't need him because we've got the best two people here. So that's it for me. Steve, Zach, thank you so much for doing this and being involved. And I'll take it away and let you guys take it away.
My pleasure, Brandon. Thank you very much. You can expect a check in the mail for that nice introduction. I appreciate that. My father would be very proud of that introduction. By the way, you can win a green jacket, you can win a claret jug, Zach, but I guess until you get that shrimp buffet going on in Fort Worth,
evidence.
You clearly haven't made it in the world of golf, Zach. What's going on with that?
I look forward to that Tuesday night Champions Tour dinner invite. I look forward to going back to St. Andrews and rubbing shoulders with, some of my peers that have won the claret jug, but I'm still waiting.
Wow.
Still waiting for that invite from Simmons Bank.
I mean, where's the invite? We must have lost our addresses.
We're gonna make it happen this year. I promise you. This is a must. The Christmas event. I'm sorry, just real quick, I forgot to do this. If y'all been on Zoom, we've got Q&A feature. I'm already getting some Q&A from people. So type in a question, and as Steve facilitates the conversation, he'll be looking at the Q&A. We've got the chat box open as well. So if there's certain things you want to ask or communicate via chat, you can do that. So please use those functions. Thank you so much.
You got it, Brandon. At the bottom of the screen, this is another reminder. It says chat and Q&A. If you scroll down there, you'll be able to click into one of those two and be able to make some comments and ask questions of one of the great players of his generation, Zach Johnston. Zach, let's start with this. I think everybody is really excited to get back to seeing some live golf. I can't imagine what it must be like for you, the anticipation of getting back out the last 3 months. What have you been doing to stay relatively sharp to be able to compete next week?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Candidly, when that time span in mid-March hit at TPC, I really felt some distinct positives coming along with my game, and then obviously the bottom fell out, which is really unfortunate for my game. Granted, it was the right decision. We went from just wondering what we were going to do tomorrow till we've got essentially 2.5, 3 months canceled. So I get that. In that time span, I did take some time off. Certainly enjoyed a lot of quality time with the fam. I've had more family dinners at the dinner table than I can ever remember. My wife's probably ready for me to leave now. I mean, she was probably ready a month ago, but I've been working, man. I've been working hard, whether it's been on my body or at the golf course. Fortunately, I've been able to work. I don't take that for granted. There's a lot of individuals that haven't or can't right now. So, and certainly even 2 months ago. I've been able to get out there and try to get better. My whole focus is improvement rather than maintenance. I like the direction I'm going, and I'm excited to get back started here at the Charles Schwab. It almost feels like it's not really going to happen because you just every week has kind of been Groundhog's Day, Groundhog's Week, whatever you want to call it. I just feel like I've been going through the motions so long. It's really getting time to compete. So I'm trying to get my mind fresh. I'm trying to get my body, in good shape, obviously my game, and using this time as of late to really reflect and think and try to grow. So in all aspects.
So as the PGA Tour comes back, it's going to a classic place. Fort Worth, Texas is a beautiful city. It's got a rich golf tradition, rich sports tradition. Colonial Country Club stands out as one of the great venues in the world of golf, not just on the PGA Tour. How apropos is it, Zach, to have the event next week in Fort Worth be the first one back on the PGA Tour?
I mean, I think it's absolutely perfect. It is regarded, whether you talk about history and tradition, as one of the best. You talk to my peer group, all players would say it's probably one of their favorites. Not everybody plays it every year. That's understandable. But as far as what you desire out of a golf course, what you desire out of a tournament, it would be right there with the rest of the PGA Tour tops. I mean, obviously Hogan's Old Stomping Grounds is part of it. But that wall has a lot of names that have been individuals, guys that have pioneered the way for this game. The golf course holds a lot of drama. It's kind of one of those golf courses where, if it ain't broken, don't fix it kind of thing. It's just great to get back to Fort Worth, and a great community that's always welcomed us. I mean, the unique thing about the Charles Schwab is that it's put on certainly by the membership. We have a few of those tournaments on tour, and those are unique, where the membership truly takes, I've said it many times, takes the ownership of their event. Those plaid jackets come out in full force and welcome you. Granted, it's probably going to be a air fist or a elbow nudge rather than a hug, but typically it's a big old hug, that Fort Worth hug, and I love that. I mean, I've been fortunate to play it many times, and obviously wear that jacket, and every time I come back, I feel like I'm a part of their family. So it's a family tournament. That's what the PGA Tour is about, and I think it's a great start. Post this as we are still in the pandemic, but to get back at it.
When things came to a halt in the sports world, and basically the world as we know it, after that Thursday first round at the Players, the pause was for COVID-19 and to get that country healthy. Zach, in the last 10 days, there have been a lot of things going on in our country after the tragic death of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
Right.
Not specific to that per se, but how much of a unifying thing can sports be in a time like this? Can the PGA Tour be? How much can we learn from the experience next week in Fort Worth to perhaps bring everyone together and perhaps move the conversation forward in a sports sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. I mean, golf has so many great attributes. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start and end on it. I mean, if you're talking about professional golf and the PGA Tour, granted, every tournament's centered around charity and giving and stewardship, that kind of thing. Then you throw that aside, and you just talk about myself and my peers and what we're able to use the platform of the game of golf for. I mean, many of my peers, my buddies, have their own charities, foundations, that kind of thing. I've got my own. I've got my own virtual gala tomorrow night, Saturday, where we're serving certainly my hometown, but I mean a community that's given me so much. So I feel like it's my responsibility to use this beautiful game to unite my hometown community that gave me so much. I mean, what special? Why wouldn't you? I mean, is it a responsibility? Sure, but I find joy in it too. I find the fact that I can, use my God-given ability to help others. And at this point in our society, that's what it's about. It's about locking arms. It's about trying to understand, listen, and acknowledge what's going on, being empathetic, sympathetic about the times, to come along, certainly those individuals that are African-American in our community, and say, you know what, we're here with you. I want to learn, I want to understand, and I want to grow with you. I want change. That's what my foundation is certainly about. That's part of our mission, is to bridge the gap for young kids so they have an opportunity in and out of the classroom, and at some point grow into an adult and make a change in this community, in this world. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but in my mind, that's what I've been called to do, is to use this game for the betterment of others. As a Christian man, that's the only way I see it. I mean, I believe what the Bible says. Everybody's created equal. Unfortunately, there's those that don't. But now is the time to help change that mind. We can't rewire minds, but we can certainly, try to help them understand what is just, what is right, what is pure and what love is all about. So, I think this is the perfect time for golf to come back because it has that unity attribute. And I'm proud to be a part of the PGA Tour and certainly play next week.
Yeah, sports has always been a unifier in this country and elsewhere around the world. And next week, specifically with Fort Worth, Zach, being such a vibrant, eclectic community, I think it's the perfect backdrop for the PGA Tour to come back and play Colonial. As it pertains to Colonial, Zach, boy, it's going to be odd for guys like you who have been playing in front of thousands and thousands of people your whole life and millions on television. You know the millions on television will be there, but it's going to be quiet next week in Fort Worth. You're going to get a hole-in-one somewhere on that beautiful golf course, and there's not going to be a single clap to be able to acknowledge it. What is it going to be like for you guys, especially players like you, the best players in the world who are used to playing in front of so many people? What do you think that atmosphere is going to be like minus the fans?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. It's probably going to be a lot like my preparation the last 3 months, with my buddies and playing, and there's no one out there. You've seen a lot of great shots, but nada. I also kind of equate it to my last 9 holes at Augusta on Sunday, the Masters 2019. Many may recall we teed off early, and we actually went off split tees, 10-1, and I had to go off 10. So I made the turn to the front 9, and whatever applause or roars we heard in my group, the group behind me, the group in front of me, was from the backside because it was Tiger Woods. So, I don't know if we're going to hear anything at all, but it felt like I was playing, with my family was watching me, and that was about it. It's going to be bizarre. I mean, but it's the right thing. I mean, we are able still to go to the masses. We're able still to bring, that beautiful entertainment part of golf to the masses via television. And so, I know it's still competition. I mean, I'm still going to have juices. I'm still going to have the nerves. I'm still going to have the butterflies. And as a competitor, that's what I want to do. I want to compete. So, I love the fact that we can play in front of fans. That's, one of the coolest parts of our profession, our sport, is the fact that they can come onto our field, certainly on a Wednesday Pro-Am, and play with us, and learn from us too, but also just walk the same grounds, walk the same field, walk the same court that we compete on. It's a little bit different right now. I hope, our prayer is that it changes quickly and we're able to have fans, in the foreseeable future.
I want to remind people again, at the bottom of the screen, you can hit chat or Q&A if you want to ask a question or make a comment to Zach Johnston, a 12-time winner on the PGA Tour, 5 times representing his country in the President's Cup and Ryder Cup, also an assistant captain this past year with the win at Royal Melbourne, where Tiger Woods was the captain, a 2-time major champion, 2-time winner at Colonial next week in Fort Worth, Texas. We have some questions to get to, Zach, but one more thing from me before we get to the people on the chat. The logistics next week are going to be totally different than what we're all used to in this traveling circus that we've come accustomed to over the course of our professional lives. How comfortable are you with the way the tour has gone about its business? And we see Michael there, who's one of the well-known and great tournament directors on the PGA Tour. How comfortable are you not only with what the tour has done, but also what the good folks under Michael's stewardship have done in Fort Worth to make sure that you, your caddies, the officials, and everybody involved in the event are safe next week to be able to compete?
Well, I mean, I start with the fact that this is unprecedented. So to say that the PGA Tour has it absolutely perfect is probably not accurate. They've acknowledged that. They know there's going to be bumps along the way. That being said, I am very confident in the program and the protocols that they put out. The individuals, the experts, the constituents that they've met with has been very deep and wide. I mean, I applaud them for that because they want to get us back out there playing in a safe manner. So they're doing their due diligence. You cannot, and we know this, you cannot mitigate all the risk. So, at some point you just got to acknowledge the fact that, hey, we got to battle this. This thing ain't going away. So we've got to somehow, take it one day at a time and learn from it and get better from it. So, we're going to be tested, depending on your definition of tested, every day, but we will be tested for COVID, at least once a week. And so we're not going to interrupt the communities and their testing, but we have the ability to get tested for those that are in the bubble. So, each week's a little bit different. It's like we're trying to create a bubble at the golf course, maybe a bubble at, the housing or the hotel, a massive bigger bubble over those, and then take them from venue to venue to venue, stop to stop. Is it the perfect way to do it? I don't know, but it seems to me like that's the only logical way to do it. The travel is a part of that. The tours certainly looked into that. There's some planes from tournament to tournament that we're able to utilize, so we're all together. But you said it, we're a nomadic circus, and we're going to continue to be. But I just hope that when or if somebody does contract it, the isolation process is one that we all trust, and I think we will. I think it'll be good. I think we're all in the same boat. We want to get back to playing golf, and this is the way to do it.
Yeah, there's so many logistics involved in a PGA Tour event. You can't just put teams on one plane like you do in team sports and put them in one spot. You guys are your own bosses, and there are a lot of logistics. The PGA Tour, Michael, everybody has done a fabulous job trying to get everything started for next week. Let's open it up, Zach, to Coulter Wickerham. Coulter wants to know, hey, Zach, what are your 4 favorite PGA Tour events outside of the major championships? And are historic tournaments in danger of slipping in importance as their sponsorships change tournament names? Fascinating questions. What do you think?
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, I don't know if I have a complete ranking. I mean, we're full transparency. We're talking about one of them right now, is the Charles Schwab Colonial. That's it's one of my favorites. I don't know if I can have a ranking. I mean, I have my biases. I've got a massive attachment to the John Deere Classic, the area where I'm from. I sit on that board. I love the people. I love how they go about doing things. I love my home at St. Simon's Island. I mean, the RSM Classic presented by Davis and certainly Sea Island, they do a tremendous job. And if I were to pick another one, I think I'd probably pick the unfortunate one that was canceled, the first day, and that was the Players Championship at Sawgrass. So, it's hard to have a ranking, but those 4 kind of stand out. I love all of them for different reasons. If you were to ask my family, they'd say different things. They'd probably say Hawaii because it's Hawaii. Wherever there's stuff for the kids to do, they jump on that one too. They love San Antonio. The hotel there is pretty great for kids. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved as to how and when we pick to play, and it usually starts and ends with your wife. So those are the 4 I'd pick right off the bat. But as far as title sponsorships go, the beauty of what's been established is these tournaments do have history and tradition. And we might have turnover or a change in title sponsorships, but that doesn't mean the identity and the integrity of that event is going to be changed. We've seen that at Colonial. We'll see that with other events. My hope is that we don't see much more of that in the future with a lot of these. But the PGA Tour and certainly the staff, the competitions department, and then obviously the title sponsorship individuals there, they do a great job of harvesting, cultivating those relationships for the long haul.
Let's switch gears. We'll go over to the chat room now from Bob Jameson, Zach. Bob wants to know what your experiences have been like on all of those Ryder Cup teams. We'll include the President's Cup as well. Those teams where you're wearing the red, white, and blue as opposed to your normal garb when you go out and play professionally. What have those experiences been like for you?
Yeah, I love that question. I could sit here and say, honestly, that being associated with those teams is the best thing I've ever been a part of in a competitive level. I love those cups. Clearly I want to be competing and playing in them. And I've been fortunate to do that a number of times. And now I'm wearing a different hat. But at the same time, I'm not giving up on playing down the road. I mean, that'd be foolish of myself, and certainly as a golfer and a competitor, that doesn't mesh. So I want to play him more, but it is one of the highlights of my career. And my wife, she was sitting right here, she would say it's probably, if not one of her favorite things in golf. We love being associated with both entities, the PGA Tour with the President's Cup and the PGA of America with the Ryder Cup. We love the people that surround it. Obviously, we love the competition. That's certainly what drives it. But we don't take for granted the fact that we're able to represent our country in a team. That's a distinct honor and one that I cherish. So every piece of it I love. And if I'm not playing, if for whatever reason I cannot be a part of the team from a leadership standpoint, I'll come alongside and be the towel boy or the peanut butter and jelly sandwich maker. I don't care. I just want to be a part of it because they are the best thing, certainly, that I've experienced in competitive golf.
Having those events on NBC, the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup, I've been to every one of the ones you competed in and also been the assistant captain of Royal Melbourne in, and they are a thrill to cover. I cannot imagine what it's like to compete in one of those. And all the ones that you've competed in. And along those lines, Zach, the Ryder Cup is supposed to be played at the end of September here at Whistling Straits. A lot of chatter from the guys. Captain Steve Stricker said something about it yesterday. Can you play a Ryder Cup without fans?
That is the question. First of all, I'm glad I don't really have to answer that or make the decision because I'm not smart enough, nor do I have all the information. My guess is the decision on that will be made for us, whether it's by a local or state authority mandate. But in my mind, in my eyes, the way I see it, I cannot fathom not playing without fans. I mean, I've said it, and I'll say it again. When it comes to that tournament, obviously the drama that certainly goes alongside with the competition would be the first ingredient. The second ingredient, and some would argue even the first ingredient, is the fans. I mean, you cannot – when you talk about the Ryder Cup, and certainly if you're trying to explain it to somebody that's never been to one, you cannot describe it or cook up that casserole without understanding the immense fanhood that goes along with it. I mean, whether it's the first tee or the 18th green, it really does not matter. I mean, it may not be paramount, but it surely, in my view, it's awfully close. And
you imagine the first tee at a Ryder Cup? Are you kidding me? That's the biggest circus in all of golf, and I mean circus in a good way. And it's not. And you and I have talked about this before because you and I are huge sports fans. It's not golf loud at a Ryder Cup; it's sports loud. And without the fans there, that's an awfully tough spot for those 3 days.
It really is. I mean, shoot, I'd like to say that about any championship, especially the majors and the cups. I mean, I just don't see it. But, I get it. We need to start competing. But I just don't see it in that setting. I don't see it in that arena without fans. That's what makes it. That's what – I mean, I go back to my first one, and I've been fortunate to play 3 across the pond in Europe. And my first one was in Ireland. You have to help me out in the year, but it doesn't matter. And I remember I sat out the first session that Friday morning. Tom Lehman, our captain, said, "Hey, rest up, just do your routine, get prepared." And my wife's like, "You know what? I'm going to go out to the first tee, just walk some of the first matches, go out, you rest, get to the gym, et cetera, et cetera." So that's what I did. She came back. She's like, "It's really loud. It's really, really loud. She's like, I can't hide the fact that I had chills, goosebumps, et cetera." I mean, it is, your knees start shaking. And, we've all heard the stories. And I got some specific ones where, okay, you're going to hit off the evens. I'm going to hit off the odds. So that means you're teeing off first. And all of a sudden that changes. I mean, it's intense and it's beautiful. And it's part of the sport. It's part of that, the fabric of that event. So, again, I can't see it. I'm just glad I don't have to make that decision. In the meantime, I'm gonna continue to stay on this text chain with the captains. We're gonna continue to try to, make a plan here to put the best team out there. We're gonna continue to, see what the next few weeks have in store, and continue to have our Zoom calls because we're getting a lot of work done, despite the fact that we can't meet with potential team members. So it's a lot. I don't envy the position of the PGA of America. Respect it, but I don't want to be in their shoes right now.
Oh, I can't imagine. This is a good one. This is from Noah in the chat room. Noah wants to know, is this one of the best player fields in recent memory? Considering we've been off for 12 weeks, you guys have been off for 12 weeks, I think everybody anticipated that Colonial would have the best field it's had maybe of all time as far as official World Golf ranking points are involved. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll say a piece here, then I'll let the great tournament director Michael Toth take a portion of it too. I don't know. It depends on what your parameters are. If you're going to look at world ranking, yes. If you're going to look at maybe a FedEx Cup list, probably. I mean, you just can't hide the fact that everybody is legitimately chomping at the bit to get in there and play. So, that's probably the reason they want to see where their competitive form is. Maybe it fits in their schedule. I mean, we've got a lot of tournaments from this point on the calendar that are really, really good. So, I'm assuming it's one of the best. I'll let Michael take over and answer that portion too, because he would know. I mean, he studies that stuff better than I do.
Michael, logistically, and welcome to the chat, by the way. Thanks for coming on with us. Logistically, I would assume that this is maybe your most challenging week in your career at Colonial, but from a player field standpoint, it's got to be the easiest thing to do. Hey, guys, you haven't played in 12 weeks. Come to Fort Worth for a week and hang out with us.
Yeah, Steve, Zach, thank you. That's part of our job. Part of our role is to visit other events and convince Zach and the other players that Colonial is a place where you guys can win. And when we got canceled all the way up to the Byron Nelson, and then the PGA Championship in San Francisco got postponed and moved to the fall, we were next up. And at that moment, I think it took a while, but we realized that the longer this goes on, unfortunately, the better our field will be, and we're seeing that now. And quite frankly, there's just one name that's not on our field list, and Tiger has not played here since 1997. It would be the perfect time for him to play. No fans, very little infrastructure. I mean, the way he hit the golf ball a couple weeks ago in the match was pretty good, but we'll close out the field at 5:00 today. And what's most important for me at that moment is we have guys that have never played us before. Justin Thomas has never played us before. Rory McIlroy has never played us before. And then we've got some guys that have played us once or twice that are going to be back. Bubba Watson, Brooks Koepka, and Dustin Johnson. So I think modern day, and I can't speak to the field in the 70s, but when you go back and look at those fields in the 70s and the late 80s, they were pretty darn good. But modern day, my time since 2008, it's killer. I mean, we are really, really thankful, and we're relishing in the opportunity. And to that extent, I think that the field strength speaks to the volumes of what the PGA Tour has asked us to do from a protocols perspective. Zach and the guys will feel comfortable when they get here. It's going to be new for all of us. They're going to be tested when they get to Fort Worth. Once they test negative, they'll kind of go about their business. But Steve, the field's amazing, and that's our talking point, and that's kind of one of the bright lights in our week. The telecast is going to be super. Our Rise to the Challenge campaign is going to be fantastic, and then the field that we're going to see starting practice rounds Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Golf Channel Thursday, Friday.
I think everybody's happy for you, Michael, and your staff. You guys do such a great job. And for those of you who are on this call who have never been to Colonial, I know you won't have a chance to do that this year, but I promise you, it's one of the great PGA Tour venues to visit. You should definitely go there next year if we're all allowed to be normal fans again, watching the best players in the world. All right, so we've got a lot of comments and questions. This one's interesting. Considering it's June and it's Texas, you are going to be dealing with some heat. The heat index, maybe perhaps in the hundreds, is a question here. How do you go about your business and your game, and how does it affect you when the heat rises to a level? I haven't seen the forecast for next week. I'm sure Michael is looking at it 24/7 because that's what tournament directors do as they get close to tournament time. But when the weather is like that, Zach, the question is from this Q&A here, how do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, Unfortunately, that question is very good, and it drives me crazy. I'm not great in heat. I mean, I got to be honest. I'm from the state of Iowa. I mean, it can get hot, but let's face it. I'm from Iowa. I'm sitting in the mountains of North Carolina right now, and I got a sweatshirt on. So, how do you do it? I mean, number one, hydrate. And I don't mean just during the round. I don't mean before the round or just after the round. I mean hydrate before you get there, in the evenings, at night, when you're, wherever you're staying, hotel, house. I mean, I've got supplements that I lean on that certainly give me the proper electrolytes and, minerals and all that good stuff so that I can combat the whole week, not just one day at a time. Outside of that, frankly, candidly, I take a lot of ice baths. I swell up. My body just tends to swell up, and as a result, those evenings, I like sitting in a tub of ice. If the temperature is over 90, that means the heat index is going to be pretty darn high, and I have to cool my body down. I mean, that's the best way to do it. I might even bring like an ice towel along when I'm playing too. So finding shade would be the other part. Michael can tell you, I hit a lot of fairways, so there's not a whole lot of shade there. And so I got to walk along the rough line a lot of times. And Colonial doesn't have a whole lot of shade that I see very often. So I'm trying to always find the shade.
It was hot in 12 when you won, wasn't it? Wasn't it really hot in 2012 when you won? I thought it was.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
See, so you can handle it. You won.
Yeah, barely. I had a mental lapse on 18, if you recall, and forgot to remind. That was probably a heat. I don't want to take it. I mean, I'm going to call that a heat issue.
We got lucky.
Yeah, thanks for telling me. I mean, I'm on the green. You could have said, "Hey, move your mark back." No,
I wasn't watching. Unfortunately, I wasn't watching where I could have done that. That would have been good. That would have been fun.
Oh man, I remember watching that, Zach. I remember thinking, "Oh no, please, get the coin back. Get the coin back."
I get that all the time. All the time, I get that. Just you can yell at me. Y'all can just.
Not a TV people and tournament director people they don't want to get into your business,
I'm not just saying you. I said y'all. Y'all is singular. I'm talking all y'all.
Y'all.
All y'all yell at me. I'm not.
You cannot say in one sentence you're from Iowa and can't handle the heat and then drop multiple y'alls on us. That's just not.
Well, I live in South Georgia now. I mean, I'm my blood came from Iowa, and my vernacular, if that's the right word, comes from South Georgia.
Okay, fair enough. This is a good one from our chat room. You talk about your religion a lot. You do it in a respectful nature. You don't throw it in people's faces. You just talk about your own beliefs, which I think most people appreciate is the right way to do it if you're a professional athlete with your type of form. You also talk about your family. You joked earlier about having so many family dinners. I've had more family dinners with our teenage sons and my wife than I can imagine the last 3 months. She can't wait for the tour to get back to play, to get us out of the house. So when you think of this as an individual sport, but in your world, it's a team game, Zach, how important has your success been, considering the fact that you've had the kids and Kim along for the ride and you have your faith as well?
Sure. Great question. I'd probably start by saying that without question, I am a product of great people. I mean, if you're going to look, I'm not a statistician, but if you're going to look at the odds of a guy who's not 6 foot, has a mild case of athleticism coming out of the state of Iowa, that's going to be on the PGA Tour for, the bulk of his working life and have some success, the odds are against me. But I was surrounded by great people, and I'm talking certainly with my parents and my family from the beginning. The individuals back home in Cedar Rapids that helped grow and foster the game for me, my college years, my teammates, coaches, all that. And then fast forward to professional golf, my current coaches, my sponsors that give me the freedom to go play and not have to worry about golf, a lot of things. But then it starts and ends with my family here, my wife, my kids, not only the support they give me, but the perspective of just being mine. and me, and then obviously me being theirs, and what that is. I mean, I think the beauty of what certainly my faith is that it's not about me. It's all about, one, the Lord, and then two, those individuals that I love and that love me. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm a product of great people, and I cannot stress enough that my success is directly attributed to those priorities, and probably in that order. I'm not perfect, never going to be perfect, and I never would. Those that know me well would say the same thing. But I do know that the faults I have, I acknowledge, and I'm continually trying to be a better person, because that's what the Bible tells me to do. Alongside of that, I love being with great people. It doesn't matter where your belief system is. I'm a people person. I'm going to love on you. If you want a piece of me, you're going to get the my true identity. And so, and where my priorities lie, I can't hide that. So, I'm honest about it. I hope I'm not pushy about it. That's not my intent. I just love the fact that God said, hey, you're going to play golf and you're going to help a lot of people, and you got a great family that's going to be along for the ride. So, it's a pretty unique thing. I mean, I do not take it for granted. I love the fact that I can call myself a golfer for my job. I mean, that's not normal. I hit a ball, chase it, hit it again. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, what a cool way to glorify God each and every day.
This comes from Bill McCoy. Zach, what can the city of Fort Worth, the Club Colonial, and the community do to continue to make Colonial a must not miss tournament for the players on the PGA Tour?
Well, shoot, man, I don't know if there's anything specific the community can do. I mean, my peers that have been there usually come back, one, and two, understand how great it is. I mean, I love everything about it. Shoot, my wife and my family, when my wife goes there and she sees TCU's campus, she's like, our kids are going to look at TCU. I just hope they can get in. I mean, not necessarily look at it. I mean, it's a great institution. So, I mean, that's just one piece of it. I don't know if there's anything the community can do other than just continue to welcome us. I mean, every time I go, like I said, I feel like I'm welcomed. I fully acknowledge that each tournament I go play in is 1 week. It's like 6 or 7 days that we're there, but it's not 6 or 7 days for that tournament. It's a 365-day project. And whether you're talking about the charitable monies, the corporate hospitality, whatever it is that the community is doing, the Charles Schwab Challenge is not just those 7 days. So continue to build it up, continue to build your community up, continue to love on each other and give to each other. That's the best thing I can tell you to do, because my peers and we recognize that, we see that. There's not a whole lot you can do to the golf course, and there's not a whole lot you need to do to the golf course. The Colonial membership, like I said, they open their arms up to us. We love that. And we got peers that are members there. So, it's unique. And I don't think there's much needed. The unfortunate thing in this game is that each and every week is really, really good. So to set yourself apart is difficult. And I'm going to go back when it comes to scheduling and when it comes to picking which ones you're going to play in. There's a lot of factors involved. It depends on how old you are. Are you married? Do you have kids? What tournaments behind you, in front of you, majors? I mean, there's so many factors involved. So if someone doesn't play, it's not that they don't like it. They don't like the community. It's not that they don't like the golf course. It just doesn't fit. And it's unfortunate. At some point, you hope they'll come back or at least entertain it at some point if they haven't been there. But there's so many factors involved when it comes to our calendaring. I mean, I will be honest. My off weeks are probably more strategic than my on weeks. And especially with 3 kids at home. I mean, that's my number one priority. It's not the golf ball.
Well, thankfully, those 3 kids have Kim's looks and brains, so they should be able to get into TCU.
No comment.
Hey, Michael, along those lines, it seems like there's a bit of an opportunity for people in your profession, especially in these first 4 weeks, but specifically to your event next week, to draw in people for the very first time, like you said a little bit earlier, and maybe get them to stick because of how great Fort Worth is, how great the community is, how well they'll be treated, and they can imagine what it's going to be like the following year and those years after. with all those fans. How much of an opportunity is it for you and your staff next week to show off your venue and your community of Fort Worth to people who are coming there for the first time, not just the veterans like Zach?
It's huge. I mean, that's that has been a primary focus. When we got the green light to move to June without fans, our focus was player and player safety. And then as the field became what the field is, Steve, we felt like, okay, we've got some guys that are going to come to Fort Worth for the first time. So we're doing some things for them. And then we've got some guys that haven't been to Fort Worth for a number of years. And I think they will appreciate what we've been going through the last 9 weeks. Again, to make their week with us flawless. They can focus on their craft and getting back to work, knowing that safety and protocols are in place. And it's, it's a glimmer of what we normally are. I mean, there's a little bit of worry for me to the extent that I'll use Rory, number 1 player in the world. He's coming to Fort Worth for the first time, and he's coming to Fort Worth and not seeing the energy that the Fort Worth community shows us on Friday and Thursday and on the weekend, and the crowds that we see and the banners out in front of the front yards, and sort of all of those elements that we focus the 12 months on. So I'm a little worried about that, but at the same time, Zach's touched on it. Guys want to get back to work. I think they'll understand. But what's really key here, and it's, from Bill's question, is if you go back to 2008, and that's when I started here, what has changed in Fort Worth downtown with Sundance Square? We have more full-service hotels than we've ever had. The zoo across the street has gone through a transformation. West 7th has gone through a transformation. Edwards Ranch, TCU has turned over their soil. So Fort Worth is a better place today than it was in 2008. And I think that's helped us. The Worthington downtown, the Omni downtown, the Hilton downtown, those full service properties are still there and they're great. But then we've got a lot of other boutique options that guys in a normal year have used and liked. And so the community has really, it's grown in a very short time. And again, I'm talking 2008 to current. It's a better place, and our guys appreciate that, and our field has gotten better over those years. So we're relishing the opportunity, Steve, to maybe win some guys over to come back and see us in 2021 and beyond. Absolutely.
I'm sure you will. You guys do a great job, and Fort Worth really is just a terrific place. We love going back there each and every year. This one's from John. Excuse me, John. I think it's Choquette, maybe Choquette, who's asking you a question, Zach. He says he appreciates you taking the time to be with us today. Good luck over the weekend next week in Fort Worth. What are your best practices, and what do you incorporate on a routine basis to stay healthy, not just physically, but broadly speaking, nutrition-wise, Zach, strength and conditioning-wise, mobility, mentally, spiritually? What's a Zach Johnson routine like getting ready to play a PGA Tour event?
Sure. John, right?
John, yes.
No, that's great. I mean, that's I get that question quite often. I would say that when it comes to, what I'm doing physically for my body, because it is my instrument, it's evolved, it's changed. I'm learning as I go, certainly. But it's very involved. I employ essentially 2 individuals that oversee what I do. One in particular actually lives in the DFW area, and that's Dr. Troy Van Biesen. Been with him for well over a decade. He's a chiropractor by trade, but he's much more than that. He loves the gym. He knows the gym. He knows nutrition. He knows all of it. I mean, and then I got another guy by the name of David Richardson, who's has a doctorate in physical therapy that I see at home. So those 2 guys kind of work collaboratively too, because they both have their hands on my body, whether it's, again, adjustments, just certain modalities, cupping, needling, all that. I mean, we're doing it all on a weekly basis. I see David as of late, because I've been at home multiple times throughout the week in a safe manner. And he's also working me out too. So, my workouts are designed specifically for me and my deficiencies or my tendencies. And then also I'd say for golf, I mean, a lot of shoulders, a lot of hips, a lot of core, a lot of things that are going to allow me to, play pain-free. I mean, I've got issues. I'm 44 and I've been hitting a golf ball since I was 8 years old. It's just not great for your body. And so we're very proactive in it. And I think the other word right now, and certainly at 44, it is imperative, like I kind of mentioned with the heat and everything, is recovery. And that word is rampant, whether it's what supplements you intake, or in drinks, or just the proper kind of rest. I mean, you may see a lot of, myself, we got one on my arm, and then some of my peers have on the wrist or ankle or whatever, these devices that measure a lot and then collect a lot of data that we're able to use for recovery purposes, for workout purposes. I use the Whoop band. So it's an app that you connect to your phone, and you're able to collect a lot of data and analyze it on a daily, weekly basis and see where you are. So, like everything in sports, it's evolving and changing and growing, and technology is a big part of that. So you don't really want to get left behind. You can use it for the right reasons. All that being said, there's still just the foundation's laid. You still got to stick to it, regardless of what that is. I mean, the exercises I do can be basic at times, whether it's weights or bands or cardio. I mean, there's still a lot of truth to the basics, but we're doing a lot. I cannot go practice if I don't have a 30 to 40 minute routine each and every day. So I'm doing something every day. It may not be a full workout, but I'm doing something every day.
This is going to be switching gears now.
Okay.
Wesley Merriman chiming in with a good one here. Where did the handshake come from between you and Phil when you're playing in a team atmosphere? Wesley,
Yeah.
Wesley stepped up big there. I love it.
That's good. That's a blast from the past. I really don't remember how it actually started per se. It's one of those things that Phil's a great friend of mine. We've been able to be on many teams. He's been on countless teams. I really don't know on, but and so when I've been able to play with him, the handshake was just one cool way to acknowledge and have fun. I mean, that's really what it is just to kind of lighten the mood. It's so serious, and every shot you feel like has an immense amount of pressure or gravity to it. So, if something that rewards a proper handshake is given, you're going to do it. And that's, we wanted to keep it classy. We wanted to keep it kind of fun and acknowledge that, hey, my partner just did something really, really cool. And that's kind of how it started. On a side note, I think we started that in 14 or 15. I can't really remember. But my daughter, who's now 7, that was kind of her first experience in watching her dad play golf. And I think we were overseas. I think it was Korea. But
you cooler or less cool, Zach?
Well, she was 2. I was the coolest thing.
She was 2. Okay, you're still cool with that point. Just wait.
At that, you could not get any cooler. So she came me on TV and that kind of thing, and she didn't know who Phil was. She's 2 years old. I mean, but from that day forward, and still to that day, she is not Phil Mickelson. She's not Phil. She is Daddy's friend Phil. And the coolest part about it, because of how good of friends Phil and Amy are, is that they've acknowledged that and embraced it and loved on it. Phil's got 2 daughters of his own, and they send each other videos, which is really cool. I mean, it's not that often, but a few videos each and every year just to check in and say, hey, it's Daddy's friend Phil. Hey, Daddy's friend Phil, this is Abby Jane. I mean, so that handshake actually has, in our family, a little bit more to do than just a shake.
That's fantastic. John, I think it's Schisler. So John's asking, what's your approach from a mental standpoint, Zach, to erasing a bad shot when you have to go hit another one immediately following it? So let's say you 3-putt on a green at 14, you got to get to 15 and hit a good tee shot. Or if you hit a bad iron shot at 14, you have to get that up and down to erase that for those of us on the amateur ranks, we watch in amazement at how you guys, for the most part, get over bad shots very quickly. How do you do that? John wants to know.
Sure, John. Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of twofold. I mean, the first thing that I do mentally is, I mean, each and every day essentially is I prepare for that. I mean, it's amazing what visualization can do. I'm always visualizing positives, but at the same time, in your mind, you got to know that there's 4 outcomes to every shot. You can hit a bad shot that turns out bad. Well, you frankly deserve that. You can hit a good shot that turns out good. Well, that's great. You can hit a bad shot that turns out great. That's luck. More props to you. But when you hit a good shot that turns out poor, that's when things can kind of get out of kilter. And you have to acknowledge it. You have to embrace it. You have to kind of, I don't want to say suppress it. You have to like kind of find your way of understanding that it could happen. That's the first thing. The second thing is when you're actually in that moment, what do you do? And so for me, I go back to things that I can control. I mean, control the controllables. You know, it's all of that. I mean, I can, if my emotions get the best of me, it could continue for multiple holes, and that is not good. I mean, every hole, every shot is an opportunity, and that's kind of how the way you got to look at it. So you got to flip the page really quick. Now you can be frustrated. You can kind of let it out in your own way, and I think you do it in a manner that's somewhat professional and classy. That you can find that way of doing it. But I go back to it. What can I control? I can control the way I walk, my cadence, my rhythm, where my eyes are, my breathing, what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, and just get my mind off the fact of what just happened. The next shot is the only thing that matters. So it's almost like a circle. You know, whether it's a putt, a shot, a drive, it doesn't matter. Every shot's a circle. You kind of gather your data. You make your selection. You hit your shot. You acknowledge wherever it went. You embrace it, and then you do it again. That's kind of the dumb version of it, but it's just a circle. And so the more you can kind of get in that circle and that mode, I think the better. It's not easy. It's a practice. It's an exercise. But in this game, you got to be able to do it. Whether it's a shot, whether it's a hole, whether it's a day, whether it's a week, you got to get over it quick.
That's great advice. David Murray is chiming in. He is an ex-South African, and he was wondering, how would you compare, since you've done 5 and 5, and you were also most recently then at Royal Melbourne as an assistant captain at Tiger for the American President's Cup team. He's wondering, as an ex-South African, how would you compare the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup?
Oh, that's good. Well, you know, I think like anything, you know, when it comes to the hype of it, no offense, Sandsy, but a lot of that is media driven, certainly social media driven, and then obviously driven by maybe some of us players, you know. The history and the tradition, quite frankly, the drama that has surrounded the Ryder Cup, you know, it feels like it has a little bit more gravity to it than maybe the President's Cup, but I don't know if that's fair either. It's just younger. I mean, the President's Cup is just younger. You know, I think they both have their place. They both have their identity, and they're both different, which is great. You know, the President's Cup has the unique attribute of being, you know, obviously in the United States, but playing against the world and growing the game in a manner that I don't know if the Ryder Cup necessarily does. It does grow the game in Europe. I'm not going to, you know, certainly you got to acknowledge that. But the world team outside of Europe, the United States is substantial. And so, you know, I think that's one of the cool things about the President's Cup. From a competitive standpoint, I can tell you each and every shot, regardless of which cup we're talking about, I don't know if I can measure it. They both carry a ton of weight, and I love it. I love that pressure. You know, some people equate it to hitting shots coming down the stretch of a major championship. There may be some truth to that. You feel like you're not just hitting shots for yourself. You're hitting shots for your, you know, maybe your partner if you're in tandems, or your team, and then obviously your country or whoever you represent. There's a lot to it, but that's why we play. That's why we work. That's why we compete. And I mean, I love and relish every second of it. I mean, the beauty of both of those events is that it brings out the best in each player and sometimes the worst. But those best moments are so good. And that's why you see so many putts drop, sometimes even shots hold. Shoot, I lost a match on a hole-in-one. I'd like not to think about that one again, but thanks a lot, Paul Casey. Anyway, my point, it's special. but it's not, you can't rank them. They're just different. They're just so special.
Yeah, I think that the President's Cup gets a bad rap because of two things. One is it hasn't been nearly as competitive, although two of the last three President's Cup have been epic.
Really good.
The one in New Jersey obviously was a whitewash by the United States, but that's going to happen in sports. The one in South Korea and the one in Australia, both of them came down to the last day, last couple of matches, and in one case with Bill Haas, came down to the last match in South Korea. So to me, you got to let it marinate. Sports is about tradition. You know, Ryder Cup has been around forever, way before when we were born. And the President's Cup is just getting warmed up. People need to let it marinate a little bit and just relax on making fun of that competition and let it breathe a little.
Right. And I'll add one thing. I really don't know what goes on in, obviously, my opponent's team rooms, but I can't imagine. And they've done, like you said, the last two or three have been really close, whether it was Captain Price or Captain Els. There's some barriers there that we don't have.
Right.
And they're obviously navigating that to the best of their ability, whether it's language or customs or whatever it may be. I'm not going to sit here and say I know or understand, but they're doing the best they can. And obviously, when it comes to the competition, they're in a much better place than what they were years ago. And I foresee it being close a lot more often, if not at some point. I mean, the inevitable. I mean, they're probably going to win at some point. The game's growing in a worldly sense. I just hope I'm not a part of that team because I want to win. I mean, that's what I want to do. But I just think it's going to happen. And that's the beauty of this game is that, you know, it's growing. The President's Cup is a big part of it. And I'm been fortunate to be on a number of those teams.
Yeah, both of those competitions should not be compared. I know it's inevitable that you kind of have to, but they shouldn't be compared. They're different events, and they both are outstanding in their own right. You talked about competitive. You talked about getting back after it. Last thing as we wrap it up, and we apologize for anybody on the Q&A or the chat side if we didn't get to all of your comments and your questions. But as we wrap it up, guys, with one last thought from Zach, we'll go to Michael first, and then Zach, you can wrap it up. How excited are you guys for next week?
We're excited. I want it to start today. I'm ready. This has really been 9 weeks of really wonderful collaboration with the PGA Tour, with Charles Schwab. There's been some key leaders on our executive committee, Rob Hood, our tournament chairman, Jim Lito, our chief operations officer. We've left no stone unturned. It's not your traditional, what we call advance week. And we're ready. We want to get here now. We're putting the final touches on a charitable program called Rise to the Challenge. And Zach and the other 147 golfers in the field will donate something signed. Zach's donated a President's Cup flag that's signed by his teammates. And during the tournament week, people can go in and make a donation, and you earn raffle tickets. So we're putting the final touches on that, but I think we're ready. We want it to get here tomorrow, but we'll wait till kind of guys start arriving on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, practice rounds Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the cameras go up on Thursday. So we've really put a lot of hard work into it, and Betsy Price, our mayor, she's the best. She's really helped us in a lot of situations, and UT Southwestern has helped us, Governor Abbott as well. But, without the Chamber's help and Visit Fort Worth, we couldn't do what we do. And Zach, we appreciate you taking time today. And, Steve, we wish we could have you on the ground this year, but we'll see you next year. But we're ready. And I hope the community's proud. I hope Fort Worth and the city and everybody today tuning in is proud of what we've accomplished. Hope they're proud that Fort Worth is going to be profiled to 225 countries over the 4 days. And let's hope for great weather, and let's hope for people tuning in to get golf back. And no better place than 74 years of history than Colonial Country Club and the Charles Schwab Challenge.
Zach, you must be itching to get back out there and compete.
I was ready yesterday. I was ready 2 months ago. I'm ready. I've always said I'm a competitor first. I mean, and when you I've been trying to simulate that at home, but it's still different. You can't replicate what the PGA Tour does, and certainly what the Charles Schwab at Colonial can do from a competitive nature. So I cannot wait to get back to Fort Worth. I love everything about it. The community is, I'm assuming, waiting for us to get there to some degree. And, I applaud the PGA Tour for putting the plan together, the safety plan, because that's a big part of the discussion back, and that's been the bulk of our conversation, is the protocol in place. And I know that Michael and his staff have done the same, obviously done their part. So I cannot wait. It's just around the corner, and hopefully it's going to be one of the best finishes we've ever seen at Colonial. Hopefully the guy that on the 18th marks his ball and doesn't have to move his coin.
Three-time champion has a wonderful ring to it, doesn't it, Zach?
It does.
It does, yes. I would assume that Michael has his favorite two-time champion, but I don't know. I'm just assuming. Yeah, it does. I just, I want to get in contention on Sunday. That's why I play.
Listen, from the beginning, we heard from Brandon some wonderful words about Fort Worth, and everybody's excited for next week. Michael Toth, I can't wish you better wishes and better luck for next week. We're really excited to watch it from afar. And Zach, I've said this to you before, on and off the air, off the record, on the record. I promise you, for everybody who's watching today, there is not a nicer, more wonderful professional athlete I've ever covered and been around and gotten to know in 30 years than Zach Johnston. He's a great champion as well, twice in Fort Worth. Looking forward to seeing you maybe don that beautiful jacket next Sunday for a third time. Zach, good luck, safe travels, all the best to him and the kids. Michael, best of luck next week. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. Hope it's been a lot of fun. Can't wait to see what Fort Worth looks like next week. Thanks for having us.
Hey, thanks so much, Steve. Thanks so much, Zach, Michael. I know we're running late. Michael, you had an announcement to make at the beginning and called in a little late. You want to mention that?
Yeah, I think we were just kind of working through a few last minute details here, rounding out the field. We encourage everybody to be a part of Rise to the Challenge. I think that is something that's going to support COVID-19 relief and then our Birdies for Charity match fund, so that we can keep our $14 million of generation into Tarrant County. Gary Patterson and Kelsey Patterson sort of started that last night with an event, and I don't know the numbers. I've heard sort of $100,000 to $150,000 raised for some local charities that'll help us as well. But we're excited. We're going to have a great week. Brandon, thank you so much for everything you do with the chamber, and everybody tune in on Thursday, Friday, Golf Channel, CBS, Saturday, Sunday.
Awesome. Thanks so much, y'all. Thanks to Simmons Bank again for putting this on. These virtual events are fun and unique and different for all of us. The highlight for me was Steve Sand's wife trying to pretend like she could crawl out the floor.
Yeah. Did you guys see
out
that?
the door? She was like crawling and looking, and it's like, sister, just walk through the screen. We love you. You don't have to crawl.
My God. I wasn't sure if you guys could see that. I was trying not to laugh really, really hard as I looked in the screen.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
She's going to really appreciate that, Brandon.
Absolutely. We'll give her a shout out. Thanks again, Zach, Steve, Michael. Really appreciate y'all. Thanks you all for being on this, and have a great weekend. And we look forward to a fun golf tournament next week. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Guys.